Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's iStaging talk. I'm your host, Stefan, and I'm really excited because I'm joined today by Dr. Scott Smith. Scott is a faculty member of the Assumption University, Thailand's MSME Business School, Department of Hospitality and Tourism Management. And he's been, for 20 years, he's been a university academic and coach for many national and international competitions. And he is one of the, if not the very first university professor to incorporate iStaging into the university curriculum. So we're really excited. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Stefan. Thank you very much for having me. This is great.
Awesome. We are, I'm really excited to talk to you about, the event management industry and what you've done in the classroom in a few minutes. Before we do that, let me just mention a couple of small items. Number one, we're also here with my colleague Andrea, who you can speak with via the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you have any questions for Scott, please, post them in the chat, and then we'll have some time in the, at the end of the webinar today to, for a live Q&A. So yeah, and let her know if you can hear and see us fine, if the audio is good and the video is good, and if that's the case, then we're all good to go. So Scott, I want to talk to you, as I said, about the industry, sort of the event management industry as a whole, and then we go into education a little bit more, and I'd love to get your experience, about what you did in the classroom and the students. But the very first thing is, from your perspective, and especially considering what's happened over the past couple of years, as an event management professional, do you believe that the virtual events and hybrid events have actually positively impacted the industry?
Positively, they have positively impacted the industry. Virtual and hybrid events have been around, but with the pandemic, we found that virtual events became a necessity rather quickly, and were a lifesaver for a lot of the in-person events that were already organized. I think that the pandemic made us move a lot quicker to that virtual world. I think about how quickly the whole planet moved to set up virtual offices,
Yes.
pretty successfully, right? And that kind of shows you when we have to move, we definitely can make that pivot. The event industry, I think, did a really great job about doing that. In-person events always needed to evolve a little bit, right? We always needed to. And we saw that there was, we were using virtual events and hybrid events, trying to get a wider audience, trying to increase engagement from the audience quite successfully. But what's happening now is just amazing.
Yeah.
Also, when you talk about the benefits, Stefan, let's not forget about the environmental benefits of having virtual events, smaller carbon footprints, less material. There's lots of benefits for virtual events.
We sort of jumped, I guess we sort of jumped ahead, 5-10 years in terms of technology and, in the industry because of this, for the first, I guess in the beginning, obviously, because globally events couldn't happen, like physical events couldn't happen at all. It had to go completely virtual. I guess people sort of initially panicked, right? What do I do? Because they were forced to do something. And then, within a couple of months, as you said, so quickly sort of it evolved, and people started figuring out, wow, what you can essentially do online. And now that, they've gotten that first taste and see, hey, it actually does add value, a tremendous amount of value. I think we're going to see, much more of that virtual components essentially over, in the next few years. And obviously, besides the benefits that you mentioned, the expanding your reach, as an organizer and for exhibitors is, tremendous, instead of being confined to the physical space that you might have your event in. But yeah, that brings me to sort of my second my second question. I want to talk a little bit about challenges. So can you talk a bit about the challenges that that the industry is facing or faced or might face in the future, especially with the move or the to I would say, I guess, metaverse technologies, as we would call them now.
Sure. I don't think you're old enough, but I'm old enough to remember when the internet came, and was a real disruptor for the MICE industry, the meeting, incentive, convention, exhibition industry. And there was a real concern that this new technology was going to really have a negative effect on the meetings industry.
Mm,
Why would people meet in person if they can just meet online? And we found that kind of the opposite was true. Is people were meeting online, finding that they had common interests, and they wanted to meet in the real world as well.
yeah.
So it makes for uh, a nice entrance way for the mice. Uh,
Mm,
one of the biggest event organizers are always looking for the four rights, to find the right venue at the right place at the right time at the right price, and the metaverse just eliminates all of that.
right.
You can choose when, where, how long you want your event to run. If your venue's too small, you can knock out a wall or put in a door that
Yeah.
goes to wherever you want. Use your imagination.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I think that's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the I think challenges also is just the wording and the phrasing that we use. The word metaverse can be very confusing for lots of people right now. Like if you talk about metaverse, people are like, I don't know what that means. I don't know. Yeah, is that an app I can download? Where do I go? Like I think it's that I think that's confusing, and that makes people think, okay, know how to how to incorporate that, I guess. It might be very complicated or difficult for me, which makes people hesitant in moving forward. But yeah, it and because in the beginning it was a little bit of a replacement simply because physical events couldn't happen. People have to understand now that it's not a replacement, but it's an improvement, right? We don't want to see it as a competing with each other, but really an added value to, I guess, the event industry. Yeah.
I
Um,
agree. I think that for VR, virtual reality with the goggles, I think
mm,
that's still the technology is still not quite there.
right.
But augmented reality, the things that we see, and the big players that are involved, like Google Lens and the rest of that,
Yes. Yes.
are I think they're really going to be game changers for the event industry, and we're going to keep looking to see how we can incorporate that. And I'll tell you, it's been a few years now. I've been uh, I've been involved with a destination marketing contest held
Right.
in Taiwan,
Yes.
which is how we met.
Yes.
And the students have just been they've been using AR technology and VR technology for their trade show booths
Hmm.
for I can go back probably 5 or 6 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so they've really been really been on the forefront of this trend.
Yeah, actually, so I would love to talk a little bit more about that. What you did in the classroom. We'll touch upon sort of the future of virtual events later on towards the end. But what about you? I think you're probably one of the first, if not the first, that incorporated iStaging into the classroom. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about how you did that and what your experience was, and for the students, and what kind of results did you see in the classroom? Because yeah, that must have been interesting.
It was, as I mentioned, we met during this destination marketing contest, which is an
Mm.
annual contest in Taiwan, which they moved online and they used the iStaging platform. Uh,
Yes.
and I'm teaching event management for many years, and I teach mice management, and I thought that this was just going to be a great opportunity for me to learn, and then to share it with my students. So we started with a small group, right? Just one team with 5 students, and their feedback was so great that they were telling me, Dr. Scott, you really need to share this with the other students. And I
Mm.
was saying, are you sure this is outside their comfort zone? And they said, no, trust me, they'll pick up very quickly. And they sure did, right? I thought I learned the iStaging platform pretty fast, but my students, you only have to tell them half the time and they can figure that out. I think the iStaging editor is pretty easy to learn, at least for my students it was.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was so, informative and educational and engaging, and that's often not easy to do with students, right? To get them engaged in this stuff. But I guess because this is real world technologies that are literally being used in proper events. I think it's great that they get that first taste and see, hey, what am I going to be using? How can I potentially add value when they go into the market, in the next few years,
I use the iStaging platform for 3 of the 5 subjects that I teach at Assumption University this
right?
semester. So I teach a mice class, and the students came up with they developed trade show booths to promote their destinations for the mice market. I
Hmm.
teach a what was it? The other one, tourism destination management, and the students created trade show booths to market their tourist destination.
Yes,
And I also used it for, what was the third one? Oh, event management class. And
yes,
the event management class, the students were they're going to be graduating pretty soon, so
right.
they're interested. They need some information about companies.
Hmm.
So we created the online career fair,
Right.
and we put it all together, and we called it the HTM Expo Extravaganza, and it was 3 events going on under one virtual roof,
Yes.
and it was really great.
Yeah.
The reason I thought that I could get away with it for 3 classes is because at the end of the day, I'm really trying to teach digital literacy. I'm trying
Hmm.
to teach students, trying to help them learn how to create, collaborate, to share digital content, and to do so responsibly as well. And
Yes.
you already mentioned the biggest benefit that I got from that, which for me was student engagement.
Yes.
The students really enjoy it,
Yeah.
and I checked along the way. I wanted to make sure I made it a midterm project instead of a semester long, because
Hmm.
I wasn't sure how well it was going to be received from the students, and I
Yes.
didn't want them spending the whole semester on this. Um, they picked it up really quickly, and we finished in maybe 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and the students really came up with unique ways to share information, and
Well,
they
and
created really creative presentations.
absolutely. No, and I have to say, I saw some of the results, and we'll be able to share that in the next couple of weeks as well. And it was fantastic what they've created. I have to say, some of the stuff or a lot of the stuff that I've seen was better than some of the real world stuff that's been created. So that was awesome to see. Yeah, that they picked it up so quickly.
I was
Um,
just amazed with the plugins. There's so many options with the iStaging platform, but the plugins that they use to create engagement, making games, using games like Kahoot
yeah,
to get people to participate,
yeah.
and that was just fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, and that actually, well, what we've seen is, we've seen multiple uses of our platform actually by different universities, and yours was actually complete. The way that you use this completely new, but I was wondering if you see any other potential use cases or uses for the platform in education? Are there other options where we could potentially, or where education could potentially benefit from it?
Yeah, absolutely. The academics in school, we do a lot of teaching students or encouraging students to remember, to understand, to apply theories and ideas. But when we get them to create, that's a different order of thinking.
Right.
And students using the iStaging platform to create their presentations, to search through infographics and animations and videos and have a discussion. Should we share this one? Should we not share it? It really, I think that they did a much deeper dive
Mm,
into the topics than they usually do,
right.
and judging from their feedback at the end of the semester, I think that they've retained that information a lot longer than
Yeah.
usual. So I think that's great.
Yeah, and I think for we've seen well, a couple of universities, but one in the National Taiwan University here has also used the platform to create sort of a virtual education, or a virtual fair essentially, for their students, and they involved universities globally, also in Europe and the US, that were actually there to say, hey, for an exchange potentially, and obviously, in the past 2 years it was basically impossible to go anywhere, or for those universities to actually come to Taiwan. So yeah, doing that virtually had actually a great impact. And another one, besides sort of the presentation aspect, death by PowerPoint, essentially, as you sometimes mention, is creating virtual tours of campus as a guided tour, and for potential students that might want to take a look before their actual in-person visit, which is never going to go away. But yeah, how would you feel about that, doing that for Assumption University?
Yeah, I think that there's lots of applications for the eye staging, and you can use it across curriculums. I think teachers should be easily be able to find
Yeah.
how it could fit in. Creating trade shows, giving tours, those are pretty obvious, but just as a way to save teachers from death by PowerPoint, which is a very real thing.
Yes.
Speaking as a teacher at the end of the semester, it's a new way to. It makes the presentation so much more engaging, so much more creative, and the students they really do a much better job in not a lot more time. Our
Yeah.
students, I was tracking how much time they spent on this project, and on average, the groups were spending about 3 to 5 hours,
Mm.
which is and then a little bit of class time for introduction and guest speakers. Um, but yeah, we're really happy with it. You talk about some of the other benefits, some other applications for the iStaging platform, and I think that a virtual campus, right, and
Yeah.
using it to show off our campus, I think that we're going to be seeing that a lot more in the
Mm.
future. And
Yeah.
Assumption University, Thailand, where I teach, I'm pretty sure we may have the most beautiful campus in Southeast Asia. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And our campus is very photogenic,
Mm.
very Instagrammable, and would be a great. I think iStaging would really work well to show off our campus and enhance our brand if it's
Yeah.
done correctly, right? And share this to a larger market. I just
Mm.
think, imagine if we had a virtual campus already set up 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Oh, how
Absolutely.
great would that have been?
Absolutely. Well, so before I want to see if there are any questions from the audience today, like a sort of a final question. What kind of, and we throughout the conversation we already sort of touched upon it, but maybe to just summarize, what kind of opportunities do you see for virtual events, for the virtual event management industry, and even in education? Where do you think we're gonna go? Yeah.
We're going to see a lot more hybrid events, that's for sure, right? We're going to see a lot more virtual events as well, but I think hybrid events is going to be the biggest growth we're going to see in the near future.
Yeah.
And you know, we talked about some of the benefits, but let's not forget, uh, not only is it cost effective, but having an event in the metaverse or online also gives you an opportunity to get better speakers, to more opportunities for your sponsors
Hmm.
to share their information.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think we definitely see the direction we're moving.
Yeah.
How are we going to? How is the education? How are we going to stay on the forefront and know about the trends and
Yeah.
share this information with our students? That's the challenge because this is not in the textbook, right?
Yes.
This is in we mentioned VR and AR when we talk about trends, but it's more of a pie in the sky.
Yeah.
Uh, and now we see that definitely this is the way we're going to be going.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, I think hybrid hybrid events are going to be the standard. You know, not too long from now. You know, any event that doesn't have sort of a virtual component will seriously lose out on, you know, a ton of opportunities. I'd say. Um, and I think something that we actually haven't mentioned yet, but we're going to see that very, very soon, is the use of avatars, you know, in virtual and hybrid events. And you know, when people think about avatars nowadays, they think, oh, I have to have a headset to, you know, to use an avatar, or you know, I guess maybe being hesitant, but that's not even necessary. Like, you can, you know, with the devices that you're using today, uh, uh, you know, you'll be able to start using an avatar and walk around and communicate and connect with people. But again, you know, definitely not a replacement, just an added value of what's already there. But yeah, that we're going to be seeing that very, very soon.
I,
Also, even at iStaging. Yeah.
I agree. I have a team from Disney working on my avatar now.
Okay.
But I was thinking about avatars a little more because wouldn't that be great if in the virtual classroom I could see the avatars of my students, right? And they're sitting in their desk, and then I was thinking, and I'm sure the technology is going to be there pretty soon. I also would like to see the avatar of my students, like with their eyes open or
Yeah.
blink, right? So that I
Yeah.
know that they're actually paying attention and they're actually following along. And I bet you we're going to be able to do that pretty soon.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yeah.
we're not far away from that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was great. Let's see if there are, you know, potentially any questions from the audience today. So if there are any
Cool.
questions, guys, for Scott, please feel free to put them in the chat. Now's your chance. If not, then that's actually also okay. But if you have any questions related to event management, to, you know, education, or how it's being used in the classroom, I don't know if some people may have joined a little bit later, a couple minutes later, maybe you missed the beginning. uh, See if there's anything there. So we'll give them a couple. We'll give them a couple minutes. But yeah, I think also, you know, in education, event management, in the sort of probably the classes are going to be more. I think it is all already very technology based, but it'll probably see more and more of that, and using, you know, real world technologies. And it might not. They might not be exact, because there's so many possibilities. They might not use the exact technology in class that they might be using later on, you know, in the real world, but they'll be very familiar with that. And I think, you know, that's where they can add a tremendous amount of value, because they'll, you know, work for companies that might not be that familiar there, right? They say, I know a certain thing, and I've been doing that for 20, 30, 40 years. But when you talk to me about metaverse and avatars and, you know, virtual hybrid events, they might panic. And that's where, you know, the students might be able to add a tremendous amount of value. All
Yeah,
right.
our school, Stefan, we've really embraced innovation and technology.
Yeah.
It's really part of our DNA now, and I'm always reminding my students, right? When we talk about technology, we're talking about most of the time your phone, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's the technology we're talking about. You're familiar with this technology.
Yes.
I'm not talking about things that haven't been invented. I'm talking about the technology that's in your pocket right now.
Right.
And again, imagine going to an event and seeing it through your phone. And I've seen this done at industry events before, where you look at the booth through your phone, and it's a 3D booth.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
really going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
My
Absolutely.
problem is the information, trying to find the latest trends and all the rest of that. As I mentioned, it's not in the textbook.
Yeah.
So we really need to do a deep dive online, and you really need to. I'm a big fan of lifelong learning, so this is
Yes.
kind of right up my alley.
Yeah.
And the students are usually pretty good about this.
Mhm.
I usually make a project during the semester where they have to do a presentation about the industry trends, what's
Yes.
coming up, and they usually do a really great job on this.
Awesome. Well, Scott, I don't see anyone asking any questions right now, which is okay. I guess that means that they've learned a ton from you today. Yeah, I want to thank you very very much for joining us, for sharing your experiences. That we really appreciate it. It was really really insightful. We will be sharing this talk online as well, so it will be available for people to rewatch. If you have any questions still, feel free to reach out to iStaging, or I can put you in touch with Scott. I'm sure that he'll be happy to share some more experiences if you have any further questions. Thanks again for being here, and yeah, we hope that we'll see you at the next one, and definitely Scott. Thanks so much. We appreciate your time.
Stefan, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the week, guys. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.